Good evening, good evening. After a month hiatus away from podcasting and blogging might have been a little bit longer, I had to dig deep inside of me to figure out what was going on. Yes, something was definitely going on. I didn't want to talk about breast cancer. And honestly, I didn't want to hear the word breast cancer, nothing. I decided to just block my mind out of that word because that word was not a good place to find myself. So I decided it was time to figure out why I was feeling like I was feeling. So I realized it's a process that I had to take. And the first process was I never really dealt with the fact that I had breast cancer where emotionally inside I felt what I needed to feel. I never showed it to anybody, how I really felt about having breast cancer. My emotions were always cheerful. I always had a smile, never sad, and always cheering everybody else up. But when it came this year, the 10th of October, I found myself retreating back into a shell of remembrance of what I went through with breast cancer. And it was not a pretty story. My story was not pretty, and I'm sure a lot of us is not pretty. And then I thought about my mother. She had cancer. And I think about this surge of cancer where it just overtook my mind, and I just wanted to blank out just a while, clock out of hearing that word cancer. Excuse me. So I came across this word called toxic positivity. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I do apologize. And then I found out that all along, that's what I was dealing with. Toxic positivity. You see that smile I would always wear, and I'm cheering everybody else up. And what I was doing was telling them to be happy when deep down inside, they couldn't be who they were. They wanted to be upset. They wanted to be mad. They wanted to be hurt. They wanted to even be mad at God. But me, smiling all the time, it kind of gave them hope. Like I never had those emotions. But yes, I did. There were days when I would come home and I would go upstairs and I would sit here, and I never really took the time out to cry. I never cried about what happened to me, what was going on in me, because I call myself trying to be strong. Strong for who? Not for me, but for the whole world. And that was a facade, and I realized that. My strength was so people wouldn't know that I was hurting. So I just smiled. I played it off. Everything was fine. But toxic positivity made me find out that what I did was more damage than good. Because I never, ever showed any emotion. I was hiding it. It was deep down inside. And as I'm thinking about this, I thought about when my mother died. It was the same thing. Toxic positivity. Never crying, never saying anything, just being all happy and saying, well, it's God's will, And I remember her friend Kimberly, she was like, you know what? It's okay to be mad at God. And I was like, no, I couldn't do that because he would be mad at me. But I forgot, I'm human. I have emotions. And yes, I'm allowed to be upset with God. Even though he does what he does, I can be upset with him. I can be me. So that's how I handled breast cancer. I made like my mother was here. And I didn't want her to be upset because I know her. And she was like, you got to be strong, Francis. Just stay strong. You can do this. You can get through it. And I did it because I pretended as though she were here. Never shedding a tear, nothing. Nothing. It wasn't until recently I shared with 3 people how I really felt. It wasn't until recently, as I'm reading these stories about breast cancer, that my own came back to me, my own story. My own story. And what I had to go through, what I endured. I mean, the 18 months with a port in you, because you had to get your cancer meds and your Herceptin. Then I thought about the burn marks from the breast cancer radiation, and how when I bend down, it feels like I'm having a heart attack, only to find out that it's the skin stretching because it's tightened up from the beam of the radiation. And then I thought about sometimes the depression I might feel, because I never ever shared how I really felt. And that's why I think I did more harm to me than good. I should have let it out. I should have cried. I should have screamed. I should have yelled to the moon. I should have let the world know I am hurting. I am pissed. Regardless as to whether there was treatment or not, I was disappointed. But I never said those things. Went to the doctor, smiled, she gave me a hug. Oh, you're doing good. And I would go home like it was nothing. Never saying anything. Nobody ever knew until recently this year. Now, I've had breast cancer in 2017. That's my first diagnosis, first treatment. This is now 2023. I am 6 years in remission. I am not cancer-free, so please, when you're describing your cancer and it's gone, it's never gone. Remind yourself that. It's in remission, and it goes into remission. And you pray that it stays in remission. You pray that it never comes back again. That's what it's called, remission. And when I would see people say, I'm cancer-free, yes, that bothered me. Because I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs and say, you're not free. You're in remission. Get it right. It's called remission. I probably won't have people who want to hear this, but that is the truth. It goes into remission. And I know that because when I went for treatment and I started, that was the first thing I was told. There is no cure, Francis. We can treat you, but there is no cure. And that's the next subject. Why isn't there a cure? Cancer has been around for a long time, and yet there is no cure. But yet, the rate of all of these women and people, men and children, all these different cancers that people are all of a sudden getting, and there's no cure? Seriously? So I want to know, where's this money going to? You donate your money to these organizations. Where does it go? Have you ever asked? Have you ever asked for a breakdown to see what money is allocated to which fund for study? Now remember, these are studies. These are researchers. They use that money to research the different types of cancer. So where is it really going? And I guess that was another reason why I chose not to talk about it for the month of October, breast cancer, because I couldn't fathom. You have these people out here walking, collecting, taking donations. What are you doing with it? Are you using it for research? That's what I want to know. Research. This rate of cancer, especially in the Black community, is out of control. It's really, really out of control. I remember in 2017, and I wrote about this and I spoke about it, when I sat there with radiation, and there was a young lady there. She couldn't have been no more than 30 years old. She had a mastectomy, because she told me, and she had to get radiation. And I saw in her eyes something that I couldn't portray. I saw sadness, which I felt sad for her, and I felt a lot of empathy because she said she was a mom, a single mom, and she had a child. But me, I'm putting on this facade of a smile that really was covering up hurt. Hurt. So much hurt. I mean, I would be around everybody and be like, oh, you're so strong and stuff. Let me explain something to you. Yes, I'm strong, whereas God had me and he carried me through the journey. But emotionally, my head was jacked up. Until today, it can get that way. Because you sit back and you do ask God, why me? I mean, I'm not going to lie, because that was the first thing I asked. Why me? I even sat here and I asked God, why my mother? Why did you take her? Why did she get this non-Hodgkin's lymphoma? I asked those questions. I was told not to question God, but if I can't talk to him like a child, like the child I am of his, then what am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to sit there and be silent and not say anything? I couldn't. So it was recently that I had this conversation with him. I mean, one day he'll give me an answer, but right now I just keep on living, keep on doing what I got to do, not letting anything get in the way. But if you are going through something mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, seek help. I did have a social worker, but I never really told her the truth because I thought I was Superwoman and I could handle whatever was put in my way. Come to find out 6 years later, I was hurting myself. I never was honest about how I really felt. And she constantly asked, how do you feel, Francis? How do you feel? How is this making you feel? And I could never tell her. Because to me, I didn't want anybody at Memorial Sloan Kettering, I didn't want them to see the sadness. And plus, I looked at everybody that was sad in there, so I figured I'll come in there with a smile. But when I would sit in that room by myself, yeah, my mind would go through some things. As I sat there and I had that port in me, my mind would just go through those things because I know how they put the port in. And I know that the port goes in and it's attached to a valve in the vein. And I'm like, really? This is what they do? So I just want to encourage you all. Please, if it hurts anything, let it out. Don't hold it in. Don't punish yourself by being toxic positivity. And then there's another thing that really irks me. When people are going through something, please don't say to them, I know how you feel. You don't know how they feel. So that is not necessary. How about, is this something I can do for you? Or the other one is, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you really? Are you really? Sometimes I wonder, when people say, I'm sorry to hear that, are they really sorry to hear that? To show that they have sympathy for me? Or are they really empathetic towards what I'm going through? But you can't be sorry to hear that because, I don't know, that word has a bad connotation for me. Sorry? No. I will say, and I have learned from going through my journey to just say, is there anything I can do for you? And I remember that from when my mother was sick and I was her caregiver, and people would say, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And the one thing she would say is, "Pray." That's it. You know, that's about it. Just pray. And that works. Prayer works. I mean, unfortunately, she only lived, 6 months? She got diagnosed in October. She died in June. But her story is a different story. And I don't want to rehearse her story because, I mean, I did see what she went through. But we're talking about what we're going through now. She died in 2000. This is 2023. And in 2023, there has to be a cure for all of these things. If you can find cures or vaccines for other things, find one for cancer. For crying out loud. Please, researchers, if you ever hear this message, find a cure for cancer. Find a cure. I'm begging you. Find one. I don't want to hear the word anymore. I don't want to see my sisters, my black sisters, coming up that they have cancer. You know, I don't want to see it, especially the breast cancer, and that's the one that I see. I mean, I know ovarian cancer, you can get it from, or cervical cancer, from the perms, but they have to stop perming their hair. That'll be that. But this breast cancer is out of control. So please find a cure. And with that, I will be ending. And there is a book you could pick up if you're interested in reading it. I think it's called When God Is Enough. And however, I'll put the link in the bottom so you can go and get us 40-Day Devotional by Dwayne Graham. And if you're going through something, it might help you go through the 40 days with a peace of mind. And it might help. It's a devotional, to see, is God enough? He is enough. But let's see if you think he's enough. Have a good night, and I will see you next month. Ciao.